Listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio AM 820 brings you Family Sanctuary, a show that inspires living the gospel message in word and deed within our families. And now, Family Sanctuary with host Peggy Hartshorn.
Welcome to the Family Sanctuary, focusing on life-giving relationships and the family. I'm your host, Peggy Hartshorn, chairman of Heartbeat International, that advances life-affirming pregnancy help around the world. And today we have a program that I know you will really enjoy. And all of us have experienced little children at Mass, right? And seen the moms and dads as they handle that situation beautifully, usually. But it's a struggle. It's hard, isn't it? And so our guest today is Michelle Slawinski. She and her husband, Rick, are members of St. Paul's Church. They have 3 little boys, not just 3 little children, 3 little boys, 8, 4, and 2. All right. And Michelle has a beautiful story that she's going to share with us about actually her year of faith building. She's had a beautiful year of God really strengthening her faith with a lot of experiences, and much of that surrounds family, of course, and her 3 little boys, and her experience of Mass. She and her husband as they bring their 3 little boys to Mass. So to really enjoy her story, you'll hear in her voice. Michelle, welcome to the Family Sanctuary.
Thank you, Peggy. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's been fun for me and a blessing to hear your story ahead of time, and I want you to share it with our listeners out there. It's a beautiful story of honesty about what is it like to bring kids to Mass. Why do you do it? I think some people might think, well, doesn't that church have a cry room? Or, why aren't they in the cry room? Or why didn't the husband stay home with the children and the wife go to one Mass and the husband then does his turn, which, by the way, when our 2 children were little, occasionally we did that. Mm-hmm. But it was very important to me, and I know it is to you, Michelle, to bring your children to Mass. So let's talk about that. Tell us about your start out a little bit, maybe with your year of faith building, and how that has affected your commitment to bring your children to Mass.
Yeah, God brought me here today, and I laugh because it was the beginning of the year when I was praying, God, please have a child care ministry. This is too hard. What are we getting out of this? What are we doing? It's a struggle. And it still is a struggle. But in the struggle, I see our vocation, and I see that it's hard for myself. It's hard for other parents, but it is the most important gift we can give to our children, and a gift that we give ourselves too when we see that there's so much more to the Mass than just taking in the readings and some of the things that I thought that I was supposed to get out of Mass. It's that God will give me what I need to hear on that day at church, and it's not always what I think I need to hear, and it's going to come depending on what my kids are doing at the time, and they could be doing anything is what we've found in going to Mass with them. And I know many parents can relate, but my transformation is just being able to see the beauty and the meaning in every part of the Mass. And I walk away from Mass each week now feeling rejuvenated and refreshed for having been in the house of the Lord and receiving the Lord, whereas a year ago I was mad, and it was stressful, and it's still hard, but we've gotten to the place where we just see how meaningful the Mass is.
So you're saying that before this year of kind of faith building and really struggling with trying to figure out how to handle the kids at Mass, you were thinking that everything needs to be, particularly during the readings, during the homily, my children need to be quiet. We don't need any distraction for ourselves or for those sitting around us. And, the most important thing is that I hear the readings and that I hear the homily and I can follow Father. That's what you're saying at the beginning you were thinking.
And you're saying that while your hair's being pulled.
Yeah, right.
Kids throwing something, somebody's, mad at the other one. It's, you're having to process all that. And it just hit me, this is just so hard and this is a struggle. And it was hard with one. And at least for us, this is our story, is that, Mass with one child was hard. And then, it was hard with two, but it still wasn't that hard for us. And we got to a place where we thought we were doing well. We said we're not bringing snacks to church because we ate beforehand and we're going home afterwards. So we can bring a couple books and you'll sit. And that seemed to work for us till the third baby came along. And even when the third one came, and up until he was about a year, he was still a baby and we were holding him.
So you were kind of still one-on-one with the ones that were a little more active.
Yeah.
You could take one, your husband could take the other.
Yeah. And with our age group, our oldest, he's 8, so he's always been able to be, when he was younger, he got the attention that, he wanted. Mm. And then he got a little bit older and he's just been, a good kid that, if we ask him to do something, he's older and he listens and, he's that. Often they say that stereotypical oldest child. Right. But then another one comes along and there's a different dynamic, but it's still one parent, one child ratio. Right. And then when we had the baby, it's usually I'm holding the baby and Rick could put his attention on the middle one who maybe needed more attention. And seldomly we'd have to correct the oldest. But then at times, the baby would go to dad, and then I could give that attention to the middle child. And so we still weren't feeling like it was that much of a struggle. Mm-hmm. We were still,
you could still hear the homily.
Yeah, mostly, yeah. And and the one thing was we were committed to going to church. That part never has changed. That, that was part of our week. That's what we did. No questions asked. I would probably, looking back, the struggle was more in getting out the door. Yes,
I can recall that with our 2 children. Absolutely, getting out the door. Yes, you can rely. I would sometimes resort to yelling, unfortunately. Get your shoes on. Didn't I tell you to put your shoes on? I'm not happy about that. I'm not bragging for sure. But yes, very stressful. Getting to the church on time. I think, isn't there a song that has that line? Get me to the church on time. Get us all to the church on time, please, Lord. Well, before we talk about how you came to a new perspective on this, tell me why you and your husband believe it's so important to bring your children to Mass.
So, my answer today would be different than if you talked to me a year ago. But both of us were born and raised Catholic. And, the gift that our parents gave us was the gift of faith. And then the routine of going to Mass each week. And that's a part of what you do. And that's a part of what Rick and I did growing up. And we married in the Catholic Church. We have, wherever we have lived in Columbus, we have gone to church. Mm-hmm. So for us, honestly, before this year, it was I think more going through the motions. We knew it was right, but I don't think we really embraced why we were doing it as much. And so that's probably part of the story that maybe is what
part of your growth, part of your faith growth this year, gives you a different perspective on why this habit of bringing children to church is so important. Well, let's get back to that then and talk more about, at this point, how did you come to this new realization? And to sum up, as you said in the beginning, it's that every part of the Mass is beautiful, is meaningful, is important for us to focus on, excuse me, and also is faith building in different ways as the readings and the homily. Every part of the Mass. Tell us how you came to that realization and what different parts of the Mass now are you finding so meaningful?
Yeah. So yes, we having gone to Mass all my life, But now, let's see, we're parishioners at St. Paul's, and we've been parishioners there for 3 years. We moved to the area. We're in Galena now, but our two boys, older boys, go to school at St. Paul's, and I've loved St. Paul's. I'm so happy we are there, and it's a big parish, and I was intimidated when I first had to drop something off at the school, and I see there's a gift shop, and it's way bigger of a parish than I was used to, and there are challenges with a big parish like there's challenges with a small parish, but the great thing about a big parish is all the resources. So, I mean, the people that I've met and just faith formation opportunities that have been at St. Paul's, I've been able to participate. And, it's gotten me down this road to understand what the Lord is calling of me. And, as a mother and as a wife, I feel it is my vocation to plant that mustard seed of faith in my children. And what better way to do that than to go to Mass, because
with them, yes.
With them, there are just so many, I said, like, just elements of the Mass. And I mean, because I'm talking to Jesus more as a friend these days. And I'm saying, Lord, I'm struggling. This is hard. What am I getting out of this? Please, can we have a child care ministry? This parish is huge. Why doesn't it exist already?
Well, and you and your husband are the first child care ministry, right? For your children. You are the child care ministry.
That's true. I didn't think about that, but there is a child care ministry. It's the parents taking their kids to church. That's
and planting that mustard seed. Yeah. You mentioned to me that, for instance, the offertory has special meaning for you.
Yes. So it was in a homily by Father Wilson where I was able to get that out of the homily, where he said, we, the offertory, we're not just bringing up the gifts, like we're bringing up our week. And that spoke to me as
not bringing up just the bread and the wine as people walk up the aisle with that, with those offerings. You're bringing your week.
Yeah. And, as parents and just the stage that we're in with our kids, I can think back to each day and think, okay, Monday we had a meeting, Tuesday's baseball, Wednesday's swim lessons, Thursday's baseball again. And you start to go through the week and everything that happened. And, when in our single lives and in our lives when we didn't have children, it was more routine and steady. And then kids come in and you are just up and down, riding roller coasters all the time, whether it's just the logistics of getting one kid where they need to be or just the emotions.
Getting them in their car seats is a hassle.
Yes, that
or the strollers or the baby carriers or whatever you're doing to bring them along.
Right. Or
bringing the younger ones when you're taking the older ones to their activities.
And some of the things that you think like you've got down with kids on any given day moment, like it's not smooth sailing. So yeah, that's, as parents, that's our week. And I think that, the lives that Rick and I are living as parents with kids, that's the life of a lot of other
So
parents.
at the offertory, you're offering the gift of your week, the gift of your struggles, the stresses that you have gone through, and yet also probably the joys that you felt as a result of those. Yeah,
you've got to think
beautiful
about that too.
Children.
I mean, and that's because the children offer that too. I mean, the things that they say. We're laughing out loud at times. So I make a point to remember those because it's so easy to get caught up.
What are
in
we
the chaos.
offering in the offertory?
Yeah. And here it is, Lord.
Yeah, here it is.
Like,
you take it, Lord.
Please. Yes, please. I need help.
You grow it. We planted those mustard seeds. Now, Lord, you grow it and let your grace grow it because we know it will happen. Yes. Well, our guest today, and I love hearing your story, Michelle. Our guest is Michelle Slawinski. She and her husband, Rick, are members of St. Paul's, and they're the parents of 3 little boys, 8, 4, and 2. And we're talking about the struggles of bringing your children to Mass. Why do we do it when they're little? And you're wondering, what are they getting out of it? But those seeds are being planted, of course. That habit is being formed. And I think, as Michelle has shared, bringing their children to Mass at first was a habit. It was a habit that you had because your parents brought you to Mass, and Rick's parents brought him to Mass, and it was the thing you do. As stressful as it is, getting them all cleaned up and in clean clothes and with all shoes on and matching socks, and that's a struggle early on Sunday morning, getting them into the car seats, getting them into the pews.
We've showed up at Mass without shoes for our littlest one.
You showed up without shoes. Yeah,
we didn't realize it till we got there.
I've showed up with non-matching shoes in those days when our children were little. If I found a pair of shoes I really loved, sometimes I bought them in more than one color, and sometimes I would show up with shoes that were one black and one blue because you're in such a rush, of course. Yes, looking back at those days, I can laugh, but I know how stressful they are with little children, getting them any place on time, but particularly Mass. And so we're talking about how God's built your understanding of Mass even as a result of facing into these struggles and saying, okay, well, Lord, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? And how your whole concept of the Mass has been enriched. So besides, we've talked about you always want to hear the homily, and every once in a while you pick up some of the priests' beautiful gifts that they're giving in terms of help building your faith. And through that, one of the parts of the Mass that you really look at very differently is the offertory now. That
I love
idea,
the offertory.
Yeah, you love the offertory. It came from an idea that you did hear in the homily. What other parts of the Mass are particularly meaningful to you?
Gosh, I mean, every part of the Mass now, but before it, I was looking for something like, something. God, please, help us here. What are we doing? And I know, we weren't alone. There's other families that, they're not coming to Mass with kids because it's so hard. But yeah, there's so much meaning in the Mass. And I mean, our oldest made his first communion this year. So, we, as he goes through the process of learning about the Eucharist, Rick and I go through that process too.
Sure. That's one of the beauties of having children, isn't it?
Yes.
You relearn everything that you were supposed to learn as a child. And seeing them learn it is such a beautiful gift.
Yes. And yes, we continue to do our faith formation with our children, and that's another form of a child care ministry.
Sure.
But the Eucharist, when you think Jesus is giving himself to you, I need Jesus.
Wow.
I need the goodness. I need the love. I need the kindness. I need the forgiveness. I need all those virtues.
Right.
So yes, we want Jesus. We want Jesus in our lives. And if we go up to communion and we receive Jesus, that is a beautiful gift, for my son, for myself. But knowing how beautiful the Eucharist is, and for me, going to Mass, walking up to communion, holding my 2-year-old, there was a time I was so embarrassed. He nearly swatted the Eucharist. And so I know how important it is. But he thinks it's food. He wants to eat it. He's the only one that doesn't get this. And Father Oliveira said, it's okay. And I mean, it was, I could see Jesus in the eyes of Father Oliveira. And I want to thank you, Father Oliveira. I needed that. It's okay.
Wow.
So much at that moment. Because I knew how important it was, and I knew how bad it was that my child did. And he actually didn't swat it, but he came close. And we were still blessed with the presence of Jesus saying, it's okay. And then that it's okay, I've held on to that through then all the other parts of Mass, kind of week to week, when, my kids are throwing, pulling my hair.
Sure.
Hot, cold, tired, just all the things that they say.
Sure. I think you mentioned too, even the prayers of petition have become much more meaningful to you.
Yeah, because I've heard other parents say too, as parents with children growing up in this world, we care more about the world than ever.
Sure.
So, in prayer, we're asking Jesus. We can ask the Lord our needs. And so I've got a lot.
Sure.
Everything that is said in the petitions, Lord, hear our prayer. Yeah, and I will just continue to say that with every ask in the petitions, and then just in what's in our own hearts. And that's also something that, if my kids are saying, Mom, 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 like, you can participate in this. Like, you can say, Lord, hear our prayer.
Yes.
Let them use their voices. Like,
Sure.
that's
And
the opportunity that we have for them.
a great example for praying at home as well, when they, for instance, go to bed at night, allowing them to make some petitions and Lord, hear our prayer.
Yes.
And well, tell us, because it's wonderful that you've had the affirmation from the clergy, of course, about the beauty of what you're doing and bringing your children to Mass. How about other families, and how about other people at Mass? I will just say, for my husband and me, now being grandparents, we love seeing families with young children at Mass. I mean, it's so beautiful, and we can relate because we remember what it was like bringing little children to Mass. But we're so thankful that they're open to life. Yeah. And they're saying yes, to God's plan for our sexuality, and they're welcoming children. And as you said, in this day and age, it's a challenge, the world that we're bringing them into. But our faith, our hope, our love, we know this is God's plan for our family. How does the parish respond? Have you ever gotten dirty looks?
My experience, I hope I'm speaking for every other parent out there, but I hope everyone's experiences have been as affirming as mine have. I have never gotten any negative comments from anyone, and I mean, the way my kids behave, it wouldn't surprise me, if somebody said something negative, but instead everything is affirming and great job, and and those are the things that I want others to hear too. Because it is hard, but the community is grateful and the community is supportive, and that certainly helps us show up every Sunday.
It's a beautiful example of being the body of Christ, isn't it?
Yeah.
That in our parish, we can surround each other. Young families are one part of the body, and the little children are another part, and the grandparents are another part, and the clergy another part, and visitors another. We're all one body, and when we can recognize the beauty of and the importance of every part of that body, and of course, little children are so beautiful, aren't they? I mean, as a person sitting in the pew behind your family, let's say, I have never done that behind your family, but behind other families, seeing the beauty of, just the smile on their faces.
And the Lord said, let the children come to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a blessing to us, those of us sitting in the pew, I would say, to have such lovely young families. Well, tell us now, where are you with your desire in the beginning, and felt like, am I called to start a children's ministry here? What am I called to do now that I have these 3 little children that are consuming so much time and energy? And what am I supposed to do here? And I think you've said a little earlier in our program that now you realize, of course, your children's ministry is your own children, that are your own children. Yeah. But how are you feeling now about children's ministry in your parish?
This is just great timing that we're having this conversation, because a week ago I was a leader in our school's vacation Bible school, and I was in the child care room, and we had 8 2-year-olds, and so I see this is a really hard ministry to offer regularly for just a lot of reasons. But I grew up going to Sunday schools. Like I remember that, so that's why I thought we need to have something like that. But having done the childcare, and also we do childcare for RCIA, and maybe those ministries can help, but I also see a lot of challenges in sustainability
and offering
with
ministries.
offering
Yes.
that. And
you need so many parents and volunteers, loving and patient volunteers. How many 2-year-olds did you say you had?
We averaged 8.
8.
I mean, but there are things like one boy had a broken collarbone. I mean, so it's like things come up with kids. So I do think parents are the best childcare ministry for their children at Mass. And it is hard, but it is our vocation. And there is so much meaning in the Mass. Even if you don't hear every little part of the Mass, you are still in the game with Jesus.
Absolutely. And he's, like you said, the mustard seed parable. We plant the seed, and the Lord is the one who brings the fruit. And, looking back to at our little children, our two, those years don't last forever. Those years when they're so little and squirmy and active and I can just see those little eyes looking around in the church and in the Mass and in the people around them and just soaking in everything there, soaking in the beauty, the candles, the incense. Our son still loves incense. He's in his 40s. He loves incense, and he remembers incense from being a child as well. So how God is growing them, in these moments is something that we absolutely need to remember how beautiful that is, and how quickly those years pass. Your oldest son is now already 8.
He's going to be a 3rd grader.
He's very well behaved in church, right?
Mostly. I think part of the challenge as you get more kids is there's a domino effect. One misbehaves and it knocks down the other one and then the other one.
But maybe it works in the positive too.
I totally believe that. It does. It does.
Yeah. So enjoy those years when they are so sweet.
Thank you.
And those of us who have been through those years, we love you, we admire you, we thank you for being open to the gift of life. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Our guest today has been Michelle Slawinski. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Peggy.
You're welcome. And you've been listening to The Family Sanctuary. I'm your host, Peggy Hartshorn. To find this program again and other programs from Family Sanctuary, go to stgabrielradio.com, choose podcasts, and then Family Sanctuary. Family Sanctuary is broadcast at 4 o'clock on Saturdays and 2 o'clock on Sundays, right here on St. Gabriel Catholic Radio. So join us again to strengthen our families and make them sanctuaries of life as God intends.
Family Sanctuary is a production of listener-supported St. Gabriel Catholic Radio, AM 820. Archives of Family Sanctuary with Peggy Hartshorn are available at stgabrielradio.com.